So let's get back to what we were talking about right before the break. These two Amber Alerts that we saw this week in our area, one in Harnett County, the other in Siler City. Both of them resulted in charges for human trafficking. Now, we talked a little bit about human trafficking last night here on WRAL News at 7 o'clock, but we do think it's important to keep discussing this because, of course, it is a huge issue. Between 2023 and 2024, the North Carolina Department of Administration, they helped more than 700 human trafficking survivors here in our state. Now, the worldwide numbers are unfathomable. You can't even wrap your head around this. U.S. Customs estimates more than 40 million people have been victims wrapped up in human trafficking. The U.S. set up a human trafficking hotline in 2007, and since then, they have identified more than 2,500 cases with more than 7,000 victims. So joining me tonight is Dean Duncan to talk about this live. He's a research professor at the School of Social Work at UNC Chapel Hill. He's also the principal investigator for the Project No Rest. It's an organization out of UNC that responds to human trafficking, particularly in children. Dean, great to have you with us tonight.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So I'd like to start with what might sound kind of like a silly question, but can you explain what human trafficking looks like when we see these stories in the news? And I say that because, you know, for me, sometimes all I really can think about is what I see in the movies and stuff like that. Can you give me an idea of what it looks like in reality, what these people are going through?
It looks, well, what they're going through is they are experiencing a great deal of trauma, and they're doing something that ordinarily they wouldn't do, but they've been motivated by the person who is exploiting them to perform some activity that either so that somebody can make some money out of this process. We generally break trafficking down into sex trafficking and labor trafficking. Some people say that sex trafficking is just a form of labor trafficking, but actually you can easily break those things down. The approach is still the same, that there is an exploiter who recruits somebody in, engages them into performing some activity that they are offering to pay them for or give them some reward. But it's usually what happens is that there is more money being made by the exploiter than there is by the individual who's being trafficked.
So globally, as we've said, human trafficking impacts millions of victims. When we look at the state of North Carolina, how does North Carolina fit into all that? Even here in the country, you think about where we are located, right in the middle of the East Coast. There are major interstates that connect us both to north and south as well as to out west.
Absolutely. Yeah. North Carolina rates, according to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, in 2023, North Carolina ranked 8th in the nation in the number of calls to the Human Trafficking Hotline. That was certainly behind California and New York and Texas, who were the larger counties, but ahead of states like Pennsylvania and Georgia in terms of reports. And we also ranked 10th in the number of those reports that came in. We ranked 10th in the nation in the number of cases of human trafficking or instances of human trafficking that were found as a result of those reports.
So the two cases this week, they both involve the internet, adults befriending kids online. I imagine this is becoming more and more prevalent as people are being recruited through social media, through sometimes video games and that sort of thing. We tell parents that kids, should be monitored, but we know kids are savvy, that they might resist that sort of thing. So how aggressive should parents be when it comes to monitoring their kids online? And what can a parent do if they think they have identified a situation where an adult is trying to groom their child?
Well, parents, we all have experiences that those of us with children have experience in working with children and making sure, trying to keep the lines of communication open. And that's a real key piece in terms of trying to protect children who are at home with you, who are living with you, or even as they're not as being teenagers, but even in their earlier years, just to build that warm relationship so that if there are issues that they can tell you about it and you can listen to what they're saying and making sure that you can provide guidance to them about what they're doing or what they should be doing.
Dean, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Okay, sure.
So here is the information. This is the National Human Trafficking Hotline. You can also, that you heard Dean mention a few different times, you can also text 233-733. If you text that number, it'll give you a link. You can chat with an online specialist there, and there are advocates who are available 24/7. 24/7.